This isn't another pandemic. This isn't 2020. It's the summer of 2025, and something strange is happening. One by one, airports across the United States are falling silent. Not because of a virus, not because of any government ban, but because people simply aren't coming. Imagine walking into an airport where you hear your own footsteps echo. That's what travelers are now experiencing. Flights that once overflowed with eager tourists are nearly empty. Entire rows on international planes are deserted. People are sharing photos online of flying across oceans completely alone. No crowds, no noise, just empty seats stretching as far as the eye can see. If you're planning to fly to the US this summer, brace yourself. You may not find the flights you're expecting. Without warning, nearly 3 million travelers from Canada, the UK, and across Europe have quietly canceled their trips. No media frenzy, no official announcement, just a quiet disappearance. Major airports that once pulsed with life, New York, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Orlando, are slowly becoming ghost towns. Departures from Toronto, London, and Tokyo are being delayed or canceled repeatedly. Even American travelers are pulling back. For the first time since the pandemic, TSA is reporting a sharp drop in domestic travel. So what's going on? In today's video, we're diving deep into the 15 U.S. airports on the edge of collapse. These aren't just travel disruptions, they're warning signs. As the world turns its back on U.S. skies, we ask, what is driving this silent withdrawal? And is your airport next to vanish from the global map? Stay with us. What you're about to hear may change how you see the future of travel forever. The loudspeakers used to be constant, calling out names, boarding gates, and final warnings. But now, when you step through the cold glass doors of many U.S. airports, there's only silence. The only sound left is your own footsteps echoing through halls lined with dust-covered seats. The airport isn't closed, but it might as well be. It feels abandoned, like the world has quietly walked away without saying goodbye. Where are the children who used to ask, wide-eyed, "Mom, does Disney really have a castle?" Where are the long lines of travelers gripping passports, eyes full of hope, waiting for their chance at the American dream? In 2025, New York is expected to lose over 3 million international tourists. Along with them, a staggering $25 billion will vanish from the city's economy, quietly, without headlines or warning. There are no more reservations at Le Bernardin, no crowds in the Guggenheim, Fifth Avenue, empty, no designer bags swinging on arms, no clicking heels echoing in excitement. A woman from the UK said it best. "I used to visit New York every 2 years just for Broadway, but this year, I canceled. Not because I'm afraid of America, but because it no longer feels like America welcomes me." This isn't just about canceled vacations. This is something deeper. A relationship between the U.S. and the world is quietly falling apart. And if JFK, once the heart of American international travel, is now silent, what's happening to the smaller airports that survive only because of foreign tourists? Is this just a phase or the beginning of a long, painful goodbye? Now, if JFK is the heart, LAX, the lung of the West, is gasping for air. But what's happening there is even more alarming. LAX, once a place where you couldn't go a minute without spotting a celebrity, now sits in eerie stillness. Canceled flights flash across departure boards like tragic headlines. This was once the doorway to California dreams, sunshine, palm trees, and the Pacific breeze. Today, it feels like the lights have gone out on a Hollywood set. Flights from Toronto to LAX, once one of the busiest air routes in the world, have cut capacity by 76%. That's not a small drop, that's collapse. Why? First, the Canadian government issued a travel advisory for the U.S., warning its citizens about rising violence, social unrest, and a decline in public services. Second, the Canadian dollar has weakened, making Los Angeles feel brutally expensive. And finally, perhaps most importantly, travelers say they just don't feel safe anymore. One Toronto businessman, who used to bring his entire family to LA every summer, put it bluntly, "Prices in Santa Monica are 40% higher than they were before the pandemic, and the service is worse." Why would I spend that kind of money to feel unsafe and unwelcome? It's not about politics. It's not about visas. What we're witnessing is something far more dangerous, a quiet loss of trust. In just the first half of 2025, Los Angeles saw a massive 30% drop in international visitors. That's the steepest decline on the entire West Coast, even worse than San Francisco or Seattle. But what's most shocking? Canada, the U.S.'s closest neighbor and oldest friend, has now cut more flights to America than any other country, not out of conflict, but because something sacred has been broken. Trust. LAX, once the shining red carpet of American tourism, now feels more like an abandoned movie theater. The lights are still on, but the crowd has stopped showing up. Boarding gates close like curtains after a forgotten show. And if even our closest neighbor no longer wants a front row seat, who's left to cheer for the American dream? But while LAX fades, something even more heartbreaking is happening in Orlando. The city built on joy, dreams, and childhood wonder. Gone are the wide-eyed children staring up at the Disney castle for the first time. The laughter, the magic, the once-in-a-lifetime family moments are vanishing. Orlando, once the capital of childhood fantasy, has become strangely quiet. Disney World, where you once had to book tickets months in advance, now has entire days with openings left unclaimed. The joy has thinned out. Orlando International Airport has just suffered the worst drop in international passengers in a decade, and it's happening during what should be the busiest time of year. One mother from Texas made a promise to her 7-year-old son. If he did well in school, he could finally go to Disney. But when she added up the cost, over $2,800 for flights, hotels, and park tickets, she had to cancel the trip. Heartbroken, she told her son that Disney was under renovation. She just didn't have the heart to admit the truth. They simply couldn't afford it. A trip to Orlando used to be a reward for well-behaved kids. Now it feels more like a financial burden for entire families. Airline prices are up 45% since 2019. Hotels near Disney have nearly doubled in cost. Park tickets and food, it's like making monthly payments on a dream. But this isn't just about inflation. It's about how that rising cost is stealing childhoods, how it's quietly rewriting what the American dream even means. The dream isn't fading with a bang, it's quietly being priced out. Local reports reveal a harsh truth. Many Orlando hotels are no longer reaching the occupancy they need to stay open. For the first time since COVID, they're at risk of shutting down. And the worst part? Nearly 1/3 of all travel searches related to Orlando have just vanished. During the first quarter of this year, nearly 1/3 of Google searches for trips to Orlando were canceled before the final click to book. And that speaks volumes. Disney World, once a shining castle of joy, now feels like a dusty crown, glittering only for those who can afford the price of the throne. The gates are still open. The music still plays. But the smiles, they belong to a different class now, a class with enough credit to pay for magic. In some states, families are now paying for fast food in installments. So ask yourself, who's even thinking about taking their kids to Disney anymore? When was the last time you took your child, your grandchild, or even your whole family on a proper trip? Are we witnessing the quiet death of the American childhood dream? Let that question settle in your heart. Now, let's head west, to McCarran Airport, once the beating gateway to Las Vegas, the city of lights, wild nights, and unforgettable weekends. Today it feels more like a forgotten outpost. Where once there were endless lines of travelers dragging suitcases to casinos, now, there's just an empty parking lot under the desert sun. Las Vegas, an icon of adventure that barely needed advertising, is slowly fading into the background. A single mother from Vancouver used to treat Vegas as her annual escape. Her words this year hit like a quiet thunder. Vegas made me feel free. It let me be myself, but this year, I didn't even buy the ticket. I don't feel welcomed by America anymore. She didn't shout it. She didn't protest. She simply stayed home. But the message echoes loudly. In the second quarter of 2025, Las Vegas is projected to lose 8% of its visitors, hundreds of thousands of tourists gone. Casino revenues are down over 5%, forcing restaurants, bars, and souvenir shops to cut staff or close early. The city still has its flashing lights and giant hotels, but it's lost something even bigger: the trust of its guests. Reports of rising thefts, safety concerns, and street altercations near the Strip have made international visitors nervous. Add that to skyrocketing airfare and hotel prices, which have gone up 25 to 35% since the pandemic, and you get a painful truth. If I have to risk my wallet and my safety, say many tourists, I'll go somewhere else. It's hard to believe, but Las Vegas, the city of impulsive getaways, of last-minute plans and wild laughter, is now something people have to think twice about. A place once lit up for the world is now like a grand stage, still glowing, but with no audience left to cheer. The airport, once known for its energy, now stands quiet, like a bar at dawn, music fading, stools empty. So what happens next?
When a place once known as the world's playground is no longer even an option, we're left asking, where's the limit? Is America slowly drifting away from the very people who once loved it most? Denver International Airport, once the crown jewel of the western U.S., a place where nearly every cross-country journey made a stop, is now slipping into quiet decline. At the height of the summer travel season, it's cutting flights, letting go of staff, and seeing fewer passengers walk through its massive terminals. What's shocking is that this isn't because of a pandemic, a blizzard, or a government ban. There's no outside force. This time, the silence is coming from within. For the first time since COVID, domestic travel through Denver has dropped for 3 consecutive quarters. And perhaps the most unsettling part? Even Americans have stopped flying. At first, it seems odd, but then it starts to make sense. Inflation has eaten into everyday income. What used to be a weekend trip to visit family or a quick flight for a business meeting is now a financial headache. Domestic ticket prices have jumped 26% in just 1 year, and yet service has only worsened. More delays, more cancellations, more lost luggage. People are choosing to drive 12 hours rather than fly for 2, because those 2 hours now come with frustration, waiting, and disappointment. Denver, once the heart of American connectivity, has now become its contradiction. A system that was built to bring people together is being abandoned by the very people it was meant to serve. Take the story of an IT worker in Phoenix. He used to fly from Denver to Chicago twice a month for work. Now, he holds meetings online. If he absolutely has to travel, he drives. "I've lost faith in domestic airlines," he said. "No one informed me when my flight was canceled. No apology when I missed my event. It's not just about one bad experience. It's the feeling of being abandoned by a system I once trusted." Denver Airport has lost more than 1.2 million domestic travelers in just the first half of 2025. That's despite the fact that its terminals were expanded. And it's not just fewer people. The experience is worse too. Delayed and canceled flights are up 18%. For many, avoiding Denver has become a part of planning a trip. Here's the haunting part. The TSA at Denver has now recorded a decline in passengers for 3 straight quarters, something that hasn't happened since 9/11s. That tells us something powerful. This isn't an external attack. This is a quiet collapse from within. Denver, once the fast-beating heart of America's travel network, now feels like a lonely gas station with broken pumps. People come in only to look for a way out. The corridors that once echoed with the sound of footsteps and rolling suitcases now echo with nothing more than vacuum cleaners and the occasional announcement of yet another canceled flight. So we have to ask, if Americans no longer believe in domestic air travel, is America slowly losing its ability to even connect with itself? Have you ever canceled a flight, not because of emergencies, but because flying just doesn't feel worth it anymore? Let us know in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And next, we turn our eyes to Seattle. Once the pride of modern innovation, now, even its airport is beginning to look like a station with no one left behind the wheel. Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, Once the gleaming gateway of the Pacific Northwest, a bridge between American innovation and the world, is now drifting into a strange, haunting silence. Flights that once filled every seat, routes from Tokyo, Seoul, London, now fly with half-empty cabins. The terminals that used to pulse with the energy of tech experts, nature lovers, and global tourists now feel frozen. Even in the heart of summer, it's as if Seattle's airport is stuck in a winter no one planned for. A software engineer from Tokyo, who flew to Seattle every year for a major technology conference, shared that this year his company moved the entire event to Singapore. His reason? The flights are too expensive, the connections are unreliable, and even getting out of the airport feels uncomfortable. Seattle, a city where cloud technology meets cloudy skies, where forests, mountains, and futuristic ideas once inspired the world, is now caught in a double storm. On one side, the homelessness crisis near the airport has made many international travelers feel unsafe. On the other, hotel prices have soared, consumer taxes are high, and urban crime alerts from Asian and European governments have made Seattle less appealing. The lights are still on. The systems are still humming. But Seattle's airport has lost something harder to measure: hope. For the first time in 15 years, it has dropped out of the top 10 airports used by Asian travelers to enter the United States.